Call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, everybody. Roll call. Let the record reflect all members present. And then we'll start with board chair comments. So just a couple things. So we did the superintendent evaluation on August 12th. So we had a closed session for superintendent evaluation with in there we had Mr. Lem, Dr. Weirkamp-Herman, Director Trout, Director Roaring, Director Hackett, Director Boyd, and Director Hofstad. So we talked about goal number 1, which was standardizing the communication plan as part of the strategic plan. And so the communication was understood with measures of effectiveness as part of the strategic plan. And we have a great communication plan now. It's easily accessible on the website, and we can use the time and refine it now. And the board ranked highly effective. And goal number 2 was a financial plan for 10 years into the future. So we had some great ideas and collaboration from the entire board for that. And we were able to come up with some unique opportunities to help balance the budget and prepare for our future. And there again, was highly effective. So that's the superintendent evaluation. I'm super excited to look at the investment strategy that we have coming up and possible refund taxpayers on some bonds. And I just want to say again, there's 7 donations again tonight. So I just want to say thank you to the community and the community organizations that continue to donate to move us forward. And that's it for that. So I will take an approval of the agenda.
I would motion to approve with the amendment of moving number 10, letters A through E. Or if you want to do through F and read the policies, moving them up on the agenda, just, I have to leave early. So
I would say B, C, D, and E.
Sure.
I'll second that.
Motion by Tyra. Director Hackett. All right, discussion. Basically, we're going to move the stuff that we're voting on up sooner, so we can get to that before Director Bowman has to leave. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. Appreciation, recognition, and presentations.
Chair Hofstad, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Weirkamp-Herman. I am Amy Kruger, the Human Resources Director. I am here to introduce you to our new staff. They were all invited, and many were not able to attend. However, I will introduce who I can. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So our new staff at the Elementary and Early Childhood Center, we have a new preschool teacher, Bailey Warzeka. Jennifer Melby is a long-term sub for a preschool teacher who is out. Emma Melby is a kindergarten teacher. And I think Emma is, I saw she was online, I don't know. Amy Skeet Carlson is a 2nd grade teacher. Amy is returning to us after being gone for a year. She sent an email today and said she wishes she could be here, that she wanted to say hello to everyone, and that she was super excited to be back here in Royalton after a year of being gone. Samantha Kalthoff is a special education teacher at the elementary school as well. For our food service people, food service staff, we have Jackie Lawrence, who is a kitchen helper at the middle school, high school, and another kitchen helper, Jill Justin. At the middle school, high school, Benjamin Gilbertson is a long-term sub PE teacher, and then will become the long-term sub building sub. That's a mouthful. As soon as he's done with his long-term job there. And then Bethany Newman is returning back to us as a paraprofessional at the high school. At the district, we actually have our two people here. District office, Gina Funk is our new executive assistant to the superintendent. Let's wave Gina. And then we have Madison Hackett, and I spelled her name wrong. Sorry, 2 T's. She is our van driver and is doing a fabulous job with a lot of little preschoolers. And she just graduated from high school, so we're super excited that an alum is coming back and driving for us with our littles. Any questions on our new hires?
Yeah, I'd just like to say welcome to all the new staff. That's great. Yep, go ahead.
So it is, September is the Minnesota School Board Recognition Month. So I have certificates for all of our board members, and I want to thank you all personally for your time and service to our school district, students, staff, community. Hope that you show these proudly. True. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm thinking we should get a picture of you and your certificates. Want to do that, Nicole?
Yep.
Angela's coming
Yeah.
back.
She's all the way down there.
Oh, we'll meet her halfway.
Yeah, we could go down from that time.
Yeah.
I want to grab you a flavor glass and water. You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to do it. Apparently not.
On it.
Thank you.
So again, I'd just like to thank all of you for your service. I know it takes a lot of extra time on your personal life to come and do this work, and so thank you very much for doing that.
Recognition of citizens for input purposes. Ellie, we'll start with you.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, I'm just bringing forward the petition that I had presented the last 2 months. Last time I presented it, I was told to reach out to a personal attorney, so I have, and there is a few gray areas he's looking into. I understand you're going to be approving the levy tonight. I just hope, I understand that this wouldn't take place, this year. It would be approved. But I do hope you guys take into consideration both of the petitions of 130 plus people that would appreciate really looking into what you're spending that money on. And I understand it probably will be approved, but just take into consideration of trying to respect to the community who you guys are here for and what they would like.
Thank you. Susan.
Hello, Chair Hopton, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Weirkamp. Monday night, there was a lot of questions at the Meet the Candidate about our revenues and how we're getting our funding. And yesterday I had time because I was sitting in a hospital for 12 hours. And so I kind of went through RMR's data for Royalton. To put it in perspective, I do sit on the Ed5 board or the committee with the Royalton representative. And so I am very knowledgeable in Mars. So I just want to make sure that you guys know, and I just want to make sure that this has been corrected. So I found a lot of loopholes. 2 years ago, we missed some funding in the early childhood area, and then our numbers for 21-22, because I'm looking at your maintenance of effort, and it's always behind. This report was given to us by MDE on 4/30/24. It is a public document. You can go to MDE, the data center, and you can go down to reports, and there's an MFR. And if you put in your dates, you can list all these things. And in 21-22, we only had 140, which was a little bit less than the year prior. And that affected our special ed funding. And then in 22-23, which is the most current data, because it just came out on April 30th, Royalton did not do any special ed transportation expenditures that year. You guys got $0. And the year before, it was $136,559. It would help our deficit. And the other thing is our average, or our students with IEPs went from 140 in 21-22, where I said we had missed some, to 188 last in 22-23. And if you think we probably missed like 30 students, that's significant that would have made a difference in this. And the special education transportation expenditures would have been higher as well. So this is public knowledge. Anybody can go on the data center and look at your reports. MDE does fabulous trainings. They're in the middle of them every fall. And so my request is that who is looking at these reports and guaranteeing that you guys are getting your funding, because we lost out and now you guys are deficit and you're wondering why. Well, it's gone. So there still is time to have healed this year, but probably not for your maintenance of efforts. So, and I can give this to you because I know how to find it, but.
Sure. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody has any questions or not. I just wanted to.
No, it's just for input.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so going to the new number 8A, which was 10B, which is cash flow investment.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chair, board members, Superintendent Werkamp. I'm Steve Pumper with PMA Financial. I'll be speaking to the capital presentation, and Michael Hart will be speaking to the next agenda item on the bond refunding. We have been in front of your finance committee with more detail than what's on tonight's agenda for the presentation 2 times, and then once in front of the full board. So this is our 4th time now working with your board, and it's an action item on your agenda tonight. So the services that PMA provides, specifically a cash flow, we work with over 210 school districts in the state of Minnesota, providing the cash flow to roughly 100 districts. And we have worked with, just to give you a slight bit of background, we've worked with the Royalton School District in the past on investing your bond proceeds, actually the bonds that you're thinking about funding tonight, refunding tonight, that help build this facility and refurbish the facility, et cetera. So we have a relationship with the Royalton School District, but we've never provided the cash flow service for you tonight. So the reason to have a cash flow, I'm going to talk really about the top 2 bullet points on here. The most important for your district is actually to maximize the interest earnings. So again, this just helps the revenue that would come into the district without asking your taxpayers for additional dollars, not asking the state for additional dollars, but just doing a different process so that you can increase your interest earnings, which can be spent on anything that the school district has expenditures for. The second bullet point though on there, that green line item, can also come into play, and that's to identify if you truly have enough cash on hand throughout the entire year to meet your expenditures when they come in. And the reason that's important is it's the timing of your revenue. The revenue comes in through tax payments, and it comes in through state aid payments, and they don't come in evenly throughout the year. And so for some districts, especially districts who don't have a large fund balance, they can come into a situation where they truly don't have the revenue coming in at the right time of the year to meet their expenditures when they're going out. And by having this forecast, which I'll show you in a moment, it just gives you, a third-party verification that you're on track and you'll have enough cash on hand to meet your obligations. So the next slide just shows you a little bit about how we're going to invest your money and why it's important. This is the Treasury yield curve as of the 18th Wednesday of last week, and this is actually right The same day that the Fed took action and actually reduced the Federal Reserve rate, if you saw that in the news, which means that the interest rates were reduced by 0.5%. Now they're expecting to reduce, when I say they, the market is expecting them to take action to reduce interest rates by another 0.5% this calendar year, and then by another full percent in calendar 2025. What this is showing you is what the market expectation is as far as what's going to happen to interest rates. And as you go out longer, you see that they're being reduced. If we go to the next page, where districts normally have their money, whether it's within a local bank or when it's in a money market, this report here, this graph is showing data from back to 1998 on the very left-hand side. And all those lines, those blue lines going up and down represent the money market rate. And you can see it, back in 1998, we were over a 6% rate, and then it dropped all the way down to 1/3%, and it jumped back up to 5%. And when we get into, 2010, 2011, that's the start of the Great Recession, where it was 0% for a long period of time. It started to work its way up again to that 2.5% range, and then we had COVID, and we're back down to a 0%. And then the far right hand of the chart shows you where we are right now, which was about a 5.2% last week, and now because of the Fed Reserve rate, we're closer to getting to a 4.9% right now. But what the red lines represent on this chart represent all of the fixed rate investments, or the investments that we are making for, in this case, this is just one school district. And so what we are doing is we're taking their excess cash and we are locking it up for a longer period of time. So as the money market rate starts dropping down for these districts, we have interest, we have maturities, and we have investments that are locked up at a 5% rate right now for, in some cases, for a 2-year period of time. So in 2 years, when the money market rate is going down to a 3% or lower rate, they'll still be collecting 5% on a portion of their money. So that's how you retain your earnings. As we go to the next slide, we can kind of put this into some equations here for you to look at the impact, what this means. So right now, if I look at that top line and you have $1 million of excess cash, you're earning 5%, or you were last week, 5% rate. It was in liquid in a money market. So annually, that's $50,000 for your district, which is great if the money market were to stay at 5%. But it likely won't. So if it comes down and we're able to lock that in at a 5% rate, and you're earning out 4.5%, that's an extra $5,000 that you're keeping for your district as opposed to losing. If we look at that $1 million at 1%, it's an extra $10,000. And then for a district your size, you could have $5 million that you'd be locking up. So it's potentially $50,000 for every 1% that you were keeping at a higher rate, as opposed to having that interest being reduced by that $50,000 on an annual basis. And so that will help you support your operational budgets, as you go forward year by year. The next page will show you an example of actually what the cash flow looks like. This is probably much deeper than the boards ever get involved in, but this is something your finance director, Heidi Hagen, would use. That we would work with her on. And all this is just showing you is on the far right-hand side, it's showing what is your cash position for the district. And then the column on the left shows you revenue that's coming in on any given month, any day within the month. Expenses that are going out are in the second column for your accounts payable. And then your third column there is your payroll account. So what that's just saying is that we have this much money in the bank, this much money coming in, this much money going out. What is the excess fund you have on hand? And that guides us to making investments. So this is 1 month. We look for 24 months. So if you have an excess $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever that number is, we now then can look forward and say, well, how long will you have those excess funds for? And that's how we make our recommendations to you. You can afford, or you have the ability to invest $1 million for a full 7 months, a full 13 months, a full 18 months, a full 2 years, or whatever it may be, to match what your data is showing. So we're using data-driven to make data-driven decisions on making recommendations. One point that's important, I just want to make sure your board realizes this: we cannot execute an investment without the district's approval. So all we do is we share the data, we suggest the investments, we tell them what the investment rate would be, and then your staff indicates, yes, go ahead and pull that trigger, or don't pull that trigger. If we go to the next slide, so kind of just summing some of this up, the PMA difference will have a person in our office that's dedicated to servicing your account. We update this information on both the expenditure and revenue side on a twice a month, and we look out 24 months going forward. Once you say yes to the investment that we would recommend, we do all the full execution. So it's no staff time on your end other than for them to look at the reports we're sending to them and saying yes or no on that. Again, it's just a second set of eyes of experienced people. We've been in business now for over 40 years as a company. And it's also a useful budgeting tool for you as well. What is the cost? What's important for board members to know? So we do not charge anything to produce this cash flow for you. However, the agreement is that the state aid dollars that you receive from the state flow through your Mintrust account as opposed to where those dollars are going right now. And then if we actually conduct an investment, we charge you a fee for that. Normally speaking, on a CD, a commercial deposit, we charge you 1/4%. But you aren't getting billed as an invoice for that. So what would happen is if we're able to secure a CD, as an example, for a year long at a 5.25%, you get that CD at a 5%, and we're keeping that top 1/4%. So that's usually what we charge. If we do a security, we're charging 15 basis points, 100%. 100 basis points is 1%, so we're charging just a little over 1/10%. So that's how we get paid by doing this. So I think the last slide is just a summary. Again, the main purpose is to increase your investment earnings, to avoid the risk of having all your money liquid and just riding that interest rate curve down as it will go down. We have a dedicated staff member on your account. We execute all the investments in-house, so there's again no time or expertise needed by your staff to make that happen. And then there's no direct cost for the cash flow service to have us do that. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll stand for any questions.
I have one to start out with is, so the interest that's made, is that reinvested like a CD, or does that come out and it's just however many dollars put in there stays in there?
Well, the money that's in your Mintrust account, we'll use whatever we need of that money to make the investment. When it matures, it goes back in there. We'll have a conversation again with Heidi at that point in time to say we can reinvest this. And so again, the interest that's earned is part of the reinvestment going forward. Okay. Or depending what your cash flow position tells us, you may not be able to reinvest at that time if you need the cash. So it's just dependent on what the data says. Yeah.
Other questions? I'm curious, Finance Committee, what else was talked about, or was there anything?
You know, one thing I just verified, like there wasn't penalties or anything like that if we, for some reason, needed to withdraw money other than if it's like a CD at a bank might charge a penalty if you cash it out earlier, things of that nature. I know that was one thing we verified. Pretty much the same information.
All right.
So the money has to go through, I don't know, I gotta get the right verbiage here.
It's good Mintrust account. Yep.
So is there a lag in time like, does that take more time than for it to get to the school, or is it just?
Nope. It's
just the ones and zeros and where they move?
Yeah, it's to actually make that switch, it's a one-page form that we send to the management, a budget for the state, but that money comes the same day as it would go if you're going to your local bank or any other place. One thing I should mention, I don't even know if I mentioned it to the Finance Committee, but the money that's in the money market of Mintrust, it's liquid that same day until 11 o'clock. So Heidi were to make a transfer, as long as she lets us know before 11 o'clock, or she can do it herself. It's liquid, that's for a same day transfer. Okay.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
A motion to approve.
Second.
Director Bellman, thank you. Second, Director Ryan. Any other discussion? So from this, if we approve this, we'll find out how much we think we can put in there and go for it.
The next step for us would be to work with Heidi on collecting the data we need to produce that cash flow. Once we have that up and operational, then we would have the conversations with her as far as any recommendations if you have. We do not know if you have money to invest right now, but if the cash flow would show, then we would start making recommendations with her.
Okay.
Yep.
And we're talking like a 2-month process, right? Because we gotta get to a signer and.
I have one clarifying question. As board treasurer, is there anything extra expectation from me?
None.
Just wondering, because I have to go to the local bank and sign papers, so I just didn't know if there was
You,
documentation that I needed to be signed.
right, it's what you already have, the account's already set up. You don't have any, or you have very little dollars in the account right now. Again, it's because of our relationship we had back with you in 2015 when we were investing in bond dollars. So there's no paperwork because that's still
Okay.
in force.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All right, I have a motion and a second for approval of the cash flow investment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. We'll move on to the approval of refunding bonds. Hi, Michael.
Good evening, Michael Hart with PMA. Chair Hofstad, members of the board, Dr. Werkamp, happy to be here tonight. So what I have tonight is a very similar presentation. What the primary thing that is different, you'll see we've updated the interest rates from where I was. And we had some discussion about how that has moved around over the summer. And so we have information that's current as of last week. One note that I'll say on that, my colleague, Mr. Pumper, just talked about the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates, which does affect short-term interest rates almost immediately in terms of your investments, because your investments are, generally all within a 2-year time period, and most of them are kind of an overnight daily liquid rate. When we're talking about a bond, we're talking about a longer term interest rate going out as long as 10, 12, 15 years. And so the impact of that decision last week, rates have actually, if anything, ticked up slightly from that. Long-term interest rates are more based on long-term expectations of inflation and economic growth. And they're not as much based on this overnight metric that the Federal Reserve talks about. And so you'll see that reflected here in this presentation. So if you flip forward, again, this is the same chart. This is the payment schedule of the current bonds that were sold in 2015. On the next slide, we have the summary page of where you stand today. So what we're proposing is that you pay off the bonds that are set to come due on February 1st of 2026 through 2036. It amounts to $16.6 million. And the total savings today, once you have paid for all the cost of issuance and going through the process, is estimated at $482,000. The next slide shows that savings doesn't all come at one time, right? And we talked about this, it comes as a reduction in your property tax levy. So I want to be clear, this is not adding to your budget, it is a reduction in your tax levy of just about $40,000 a year, a little more than that each year throughout the remainder of the life of the bonds. And this savings is truly the net benefit to your taxpayers after you have paid for the costs of going through this. In transparency, the next slide shows our estimated costs of going through the bonding process. And then we're also showing on the following slide, the reduction or estimated reduction. If you reduce your levy by about $40,000, what that turns into or equates to, for example, on a $300,000 home is a reduction of $18 per year in school taxes on the tax bill. One thing that we added from the last time shows on this next slide, just to kind of, because there was some discussion about this. This is what we call a sensitivity analysis. If rates go up a 0.25% or 0.5%, you can see what happens to the savings. They're kind of following the bottom line. So if rates increase by 0.25% between now and when it's executed, it would be $202,000 of savings. Whereas if they go down 0.25%, it'd be $757,000 of savings. So just giving you some idea of how the rate sensitivity, hopefully this illustrates that in terms of kind of the realm of outcomes that are possible. On the next slide, outlines, so you do have an action for consideration tonight in the form of a resolution. And this resolution would approve proceeding forward with the bond sale subject to certain parameters. In addition to those parameters, it allows us to help you facilitate the process to apply for the state credit enhancement program. That's a program where the state says that they'll pay the bondholders in any case that the school district cannot. It does not cost you anything to be a part of that. It's a very important program because it lowers your interest rate. The parameters for the bond that are for consideration in the resolution tonight is that the board is providing the authority to the superintendent, or business manager and a school board officer. So one administrator and one officer of this board to execute the bond sale as long as the savings exceeds $100,000. The par amount does not exceed 16.6 million. And we have a window until February 1st of 2025 where this resolution can be acted upon. The final slide that I have here tonight for you is our projection of a calendar of events. We've discussed this in August. We provided a resolution to the board to review at that time. We've been preparing the documents to be ready to do this in short order. We understand that, you know, the challenge of the interest rate markets and the risk with that. We wanted to limit the amount of time between when you authorize us to proceed forward and when we're able to execute or lock in the interest rate. So subject to your approval tonight, we will have a call with a rating agency tomorrow to get a rating report completed and be out in the market so that we can have the bonds sold or priced with the interest rates locked on October 10th. And we would come back to you with a ratifying resolution or a final resolution on the 14th at your regular school board meeting in October. The bonds would close in early November and those old bonds are paid off on February 1st. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
So you had talked about the $300,000 house was $18 in savings. How long is that for? Is that for 10 years? Each year for 10 years, basically? Or what is that?
Yeah, it's through 2036, which is when these bonds would pay off. And then if you don't do anything new, your bonds completely pay off at that time.
It's the same as what we had. Same time frame.
Yes, we're not changing that time frame. So this is different than a mortgage. You know, sometimes you go back to a mortgage and they say, hey, I can lower your payment, but you've already been paying out in 10 years and they extend it out for a new 30 years. We are not doing that here. This is the same time frame that it was originally going to be paid off from 20 years from when you started in 2015, and we're maintaining that same structure.
Other questions?
Like, what would be the like if we didn't do this? What is the downside? No tax break.
I think the primary risk with acting on it now is that interest rates could fall. And once you've done it, you can't do it again. You're locked into the new issue, but we certainly do not know what interest rates will do. And we're not in the business of kind of making that kind of bet on the market.
And basically approving this, the only thing we're doing is supporting our taxpayers, basically. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's
Giving them money back.
right.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move it.
Director Hackett? I'll second. Discussion. Anything from the finance committee on this? Any conversations?
Want to talk about the parameters? Wasn't that just kind of their recommendation, but we didn't really talk about what our minimum numbers we're looking for?
Sure.
Oh, that's like.
I mean, I know it's savings, but this locks us in, we can't do it again. What's
Yep.
our threshold for savings?
So you're asking if we should raise the $100,000 one to 200 or $400,000?
Right, I don't know.
What do the rest of you guys think?
This is 10 years, right? We'd be locked in.
Yep. Well, either way, there'd be a savings.
Right.
No matter what, and we'd pay it, it wouldn't do anything to us or for us. But, you know, I think we're fine leaving it 100,000, because, you know, the estimate, if it was locked in today, was 480. So it can still be way higher than that, but it won't go any lower than that. But I think any of the savings that we can do, I think is worth it.
And I think if we raise the threshold to 200,000 and we don't meet that threshold, now we're losing. We could get 150,000, right? We're losing that. So I think,
The opportunity,
right, we're losing the opportunity.
missed opportunity.
Right. And that savings is after all the fees are paid, correct? I mean, that's our savings. Is $100,000. Yeah, I don't see a benefit of raising it other than you're waiting around and then you may not reach that point when you lose out on savings altogether.
Well, every year it goes on, it's less chance of realizing it.
That's a great question though. All right, any other discussion? All right, so I have a motion and a second. And we have to do this by resolution, correct?
Yes.
If we're gonna do that. So we have a motion and a second to approve doing the resolution. And this would be setting this at $100,000 for the refunding of bonds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Do you have to roll call?
Resolution.
No, we're approving this and then we're gonna do the resolution.
Oh, okay.
Just approving that we can do the resolution, I
Yes,
guess.
question involved.
Yep. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. All right, so we can pull. All right. Now you're gonna test me reading this.
Can we motion to waive the reading? Yeah, waive the reading of it.
Sure.
Motion to approve resolution and waive reading.
Waive the reading by Director Bowman,
I'll second
second by Director Boyd.
You're welcome.
All right. So for that motion, any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, that motion carries. So now we have the resolution as stated. Can you scroll down to the bottom there? All right, so upon a roll call vote, we will approve this resolution. Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Dr. Trout?
Aye.
Dr. Bowman?
Aye.
Dr. Boyd?
Aye.
Dr. Roy? Aye. Dr. Hackett?
Aye.
Dr. Hofstad?
Aye. All right, and nobody voted against, and the resolution was duly passed and adopted. By September 24. All right, thank you very much. D. So approval of the levy certification.
Good evening, I'm Heidi Hagan, Business Manager. Chairman Hofstad, members of the board, Dr. Christine Werkamp Herman. I'm presenting tonight the details on the 24K25 preliminary levy. This is a simple timeline. The levy can be confusing to those that aren't familiar with how it works. 24K25 levy timeline. In September, the board needs to consider by statute by September 30th to approve a preliminary levy. We receive levy calculations through the state of Minnesota. Those are updated throughout the months of September. I present that information tonight, and then the board has a decision to make. In October and November, there will be continuous updates to the preliminary levy calculations. I'll continue to monitor that and make changes as needed. And then in December, the final levy certification is required to be presented at the Truth and Taxation meeting, and the board will have the decision at that time to approve a final levy. So taxpayers, or the board approves a final levy in 2024. District taxpayers pay their taxes in the calendar year of 25, which results in revenue to the school district in fiscal year 26. The 24 pay 25 detailed levy information. So we have school taxes. So there's a trend with how property valuations impact our school taxes. And then there are various categories of the levy, both voter approved and board approved. If you want to click on that document link, I will talk more in detail about property valuations and categories. So if you can make this screen a little bit bigger at the bottom, if you click on the plus sign, yeah, keep going. And then scroll down a little bit so you can just see this top half, or scroll up, I guess. Okay. Yeah, so this is a bar graph for total school tax levy trend. You can see, scroll down a little bit. I want to see the whole thing. Maybe reduce it just a little bit. A little bit. Okay, a little bit more. Okay. Okay. So this shows dating back pay 2017 through the estimated pay 2025. The difference in total levy dollars to the school district. There's two different categories: net tax capacity, which includes all types of property within the district. And then there's a referendum market value, which excludes agriculture and seasonal rec properties. And so the green pays the majority of the taxes that support the school district levy, and the blue excludes, like I said, ag and seasonal rec, and that's a smaller portion of the total levy for the school district. And scroll down. This shows over the course of the last several years, again, pay 2017 through estimated pay 2025, similar type of bar graph where we're looking at the blue is referendum market value, the green is net tax capacity, and how property valuations in those two categories have increased year over year, and in some cases greater than 10% throughout the years. What this illustrates is the school district and the board and the decisions that you all make for approving the levy for the school district. We have no control over property valuations, and property valuations impact taxpayers' individual taxes and what they pay. And so as you can see in pay 22, property valuations remain fairly consistent from the prior year. In pay 23, they increased over 10% in one category and over 7% in another. And then again, remained high in pay 24. Now you can see property valuation percentages are coming back down as the markets continue to stabilize. So the last couple years, property valuations across the district have increased substantially, which impacts the amount of individual tax for each taxpayer. Right? Can you go back to this one? Yeah. So then here, this one you'll want to minimize so you can see the whole diagram. This divides out the different types of property tax of the school district levy. So like I'd mentioned, there's voter approved and there's board approved. The majority of our school district tax levy is the $741 on a $300,000 house is the voter approved referendum, bond referendum for building facility updates. So when we look at this, we can see that the impact to individual taxpayers, majority of at least 66% of that tax comes from voter approved levy. And then there's some smaller categories there. Board approved debt, $24 is the long-term facilities maintenance bond. that was approved by the board, authorized by the board, and then some small categorical levy categories. And then the bottom one is local optional equity and transition. Presentation. So now we have the option to look at a few different options for the levy. We have an option that the board and are familiar with in past levies is the no mid-state building lease. We also have the option to consider levying for the mid-state building lease, in which we pay out of the general fund every year for that lease, and we don't levy for it currently. All of the other school districts in our area do levy for that building lease. So we can take a look at the document link. You want to scroll in here. So this is a summary of the lease, the levy, the total levy. You want to scroll in so I can see it. Okay, so this does not include the building lease. Again, this is preliminary. So overall, the general fund has a slight increase in the total levy as compared to prior years of just under $3,000. The general fund has a slight, I'm going to scroll down, increase again, just under $3,000 in total increase to the school district levy. And then the debt service fund has an overall increase of $90,000. And so the total levy preliminary results in about a $95,000 increase to the school district levy. That's about a 3.71% overall increase from the prior year. What this tells us is that we are receiving, based on preliminary information, about 3.71% more levy revenue than we did in the previous fiscal year. This does not equate to, nor is applicable to, what taxpayers are going to see on their tax statements. This is strictly a comparison between prior year's total levy to current preliminary updates. And we can see the overall debt service levy increase has to do a lot with property valuations and state aid equalization. So the greater increases to overall property values in our district decreases the amount of state aid that offsets the local levy. And the next one is, this is with the consideration of the mid-state building lease, which is just over $42,000 a year. Again, that's where we would see about a $45,000 increase in the general fund. Community service stays the same. Debt service stays the same, for a total of about $138,000 increase to the total district levy, or 5.35% increase from prior year. And then we can scroll down. This is an illustration on local optional revenue and how it impacts taxpayers, and how, if there were to be considerations to reduce the local optional revenue, how it impacts the school district's revenue stream. So currently, the school district levies $724 per pupil for local optional. That's what the pay 24 taxes are. Scenario A is continuing with that same levy amount for about $700,000 in local optional revenue. If we were to reduce that to $500,000, that decreases the levy revenue to the district of about $287,000. And if we were to decrease that even more to $300,000, it decreases the revenue to the district of $479,000. So you can see, by reducing the local optional levy revenue by $250 or $200, the impact to the district is great when it comes to the amount of revenue. However, on the other side, taxpayers see a minimal impact to their taxes and what they would pay. So this is a monthly analysis of what a residential homestead taxpayer would pay if we considered reducing the local optional. So an impact of reducing it to 500, a $300,000 homeowner would see a reduction in their tax statement per month of about $8. If we reduced it to 300, again, the taxpayer would see an impact to their monthly tax amount of $8. And so $8 to an individual taxpayer versus $300 or $500,000 in decreased revenue to the district would pose considerable conversations about what we can do to offset that decrease. Back to the presentation. So based on my recommendation, I would recommend that the board consider approving the 24/25 levy to the maximum. What that means is we have between the board approval tonight and December to continue to monitor the levy, at which time in December, the board can choose to decrease that levy if they want. However, if we do not approve maximum at the preliminary levy, we cannot increase it in December.
Approving the levy to the max, that is not adding that mid-state amount into it, correct?
So the board has to decide tonight if they want to levy to the max with the lease
Okay.
or levy to the max without the lease.
I would support levying to the max without the mid-state in there.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
All right. Max without mid-state. We have a second. I will second that. Discussion. Do you want to keep max without mid-state? Does anybody want to add mid-state? Good, we're good with this. I think so. Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. All right, thank you very much. All right, we will move back to what is now 8E, which was 8A, which is board committee reports. I think we're good with finance. I think we talked about everything that we already had to talk about. Policy. Yep, so we have nothing for third policy reading. The only thing that we're looking at is rescinding 3 policies that nobody else has and are already covered under it's transportation pickup and drop off, ECSE, student drop off transportation, and preschool student pickup and drop off, which is already covered in other policies. And everything else is still being worked on, still in readings. Mid-state. We are working with the budgeting of mid-state considerably. And I'll leave it with that. We're working and doing a lot with that. And as a board, Royalton's leading the way with that. I'll say it that way. So next one is superintendent report.
Just want to give a quick update on, we had sent out for the board request to homeschool and open enrolled out students, an anonymous way to respond. So we sent out 52 letters. We received 9 respondents, 8 by paper and 1 by email. So 6 had no issues. It was all around location or offerings of another district. And then 3 did state issues, 2 of which I don't know who they are. 1 I was able to meet, principal and I were able to meet with that family to get some updates. So I don't know what response rate that would be.
20%. Is that worth it? Probably, yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe moving forward, when we get a new family
Yes.
who leaves, we could
Yes.
reach out, yeah. Yeah,
But even at 20%, I would consider that a success.
Yeah, I would consider getting feedback from one that we can use to improve
right.
and make sure that we're also a learning organization and a learning board and administration. That is great.
So, and then, just quickly, the strategic planning committee met last week and we, had a couple of students. They're hoping to get additional students and definitely additional community members. They have provided input on action steps and we'll just keep working through that. Our next meeting will be in November.
November 12th, right?
Yes.
Okay.
6 p.m.
Any questions for the superintendent? All right, business manager report.
Good evening. Chair Hofstad, members of the board, Dr. Christine Werkamp Herman, Heidi Hagan, business manager. This is the monthly update on the fiscal year 2025 September budget update. Board. This slide we see every month, tracking enrollment. Our original FY25 adopted budget calls for 910 ADM. We ended the FY24 school year with around 907 ADM, which equates to 991 adjusted pupil units and what we're funded off of for state aid calculations. And enrollment, we continue to track it and more information to come in the future months. I added this slide in there just for historical trend data showing 10 years of enrollment, kindergarten or early childhood through 12th grade. On the next slide. General fund revenues month end July. Again, this is the first month of our fiscal year. Overall, we're on track as a percentage of the budget in the general fund. I wanted to make note that the state revenue as compared to the previous fiscal year looks as though we have a variance, whereas as compared to the fiscal year prior to that, it looks like we're on track. That's strictly an accounting method and on how business managers account for their receivables in that fiscal year. So I do it a little bit different. The business manager before me did it different than me. Nothing to note other than it's an accounting practice. Overall, just over 4%, again, on track as a budget. General fund expense, again, month end July, on track as a percentage of budget, around 6%. Purchase services and other expenditures would appear to be accelerated. However, this is in conjunction to property insurance and long-term facilities maintenance. The prior fiscal years, we paid our property insurance monthly. Going forward, we pay the full premium all at once. One, saves time and effort, and in some cases, we are charged a fee if we pay monthly. And long-term facilities maintenance, those are just planned projects, and the timeline for those projects was this summer, whereas in previous years, LTFM projects might have happened throughout the span of the fiscal years. That's it.
I have a
Thanks,
question.
Yep.
So we don't have any average daily membership information numbers for September or for how many students we have?
We submitted a MARS and an Ed5 report just last week or the week before, and that came in around 925. We will continue to submit our MARS and Ed5 based on the required timelines. Typically, October is the time when we will see enrollment stabilize.
Yeah, October 1's a better date. Okay, I was just wondering if we had to put preliminary numbers or not for this year's enrollment. And I have another, just a clerical question. As I was reviewing through some of the previous business manager reports, I'm wondering how we got to the place where we are in the month of September's meeting, looking at July's information. Historically, we were looking at the month prior. How did we get to a 2-month lag?
We changed the meeting date from third or fourth Monday of the month to the second Monday, and so those year or month end reports aren't finalized by the time I need to publish the board packet.
Okay. Thanks. I was just wondering what happened.
Good question. All right, thank you, Heidi.
Mhm.
Principal report.
Chair Hofstad, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Weirkamp, Joel Swenson, middle school, high school principal. I wanted to update the board on our cell phone protocol. We did a survey the last week of August out to families, whether or not they'd be in support of a more restrictive cell phone policy. The survey came back 75% to 25%. People were more in favor of a strict cell phone policy. This is important. It strengthens when we talk about school and home working together for kids. And when I have conversations with ninth graders about why they can't use their cell phone in school, I have the backing of the parents in that conversation alongside the school district, which really does help. That we're making a determination for their benefit. And so that survey was exactly what I was hoping to see. Had it been the opposite, you're going to be preparing yourself for more questions and challenges to any changes. The new protocol will be that students will not be able to use smartphones, smartwatches, or AirPods in school between the hours of 8:15 to 3:10. I'd also like to thank Stacy Revore, who brought to my attention that MacBooks now, I guess you can communicate with them, and the seniors are asking for them. So we are continuing to navigate the world of them trying to weave around the requirements of this rule, and we'll have to cross that bridge. I know I'm not getting my kid a MacBook so he can talk to his friends, but we're gonna have to navigate that as we do it. The students will be able to use their cell phones at their locker during passing time, a grand total of 12 minutes a day. I think it's important if my son has a football game in St. Cloud and he forgot his socks, that he can at the break text home and, hey, mom, dad, dog, can you bring my socks to the school? So I think that's important that they have that portion of it. And if they go into a job where a cell phone, I call parents all the time where I'm at work, I cannot reach my cell phone. I will call you on a break. You can reach me on a break. Our students need to be learning those protocols, that they can't just pull that cell phone out all the time. It is not, students can have their cell phone with them. It is not something, I mean, if parents want to keep the cell phone at home, that's their choice, but I'm not telling people that they need to do that. They can have their cell phone with them in their pocket. All it is you cannot use it in school, except during those times. Keeping it out of your pocket, if this thing rings, I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to sit down and I want to look at it. If it is in my locker or it's in a secure place, I'm not going to have that issue. So we do encourage students to keep their phones in their lockers so they don't feel that pressure in class to check it. The tentative discipline protocol, this is being evaluated by teachers, and right now teachers and staff will be responsible for this when the full protocol procedure goes into place on October 21st. And the part of the reason for the delay is so we could work on some of this stuff. The first offense, you can just see the offenses there. There's a little bit of ramping up from first offense to second offense. Part of the year last year in Skyward's, teachers did not have cell phone policy or cell phone violation as an option in the pull down menu when they submitted a discipline. So it came in as insubordination, or it came in as non-compliance, or we're cleaning that up so we can track cell phone violations. And so anytime there's a cell phone involved with what's going on, teachers are to write that protocol up and to write it up in Skyward as a cell phone. I am very excited that we have had very few issues in school with the cell phone, with this change. The students are knowledgeable that October 21st is coming because they said, I can use this right now, right? Yep, you can right now. You can use your phone at lunch, but October 21st is coming, and they're aware of that. I am much more confident about it than I was going into the first day of school, that our students will handle this in a good way, and we will be able to handle it and to enforce it in a way that's indicative of what the procedure is. So, questions?
Got one. So the discipline that reset at the end of the day, end of the month, end of the year. This is for the year. Okay.
Obviously, every year we're gonna have to take a look at what does that look like. I mean, if you have 700 cell phone violations, you'd be doing nothing but digging with cell phones. I don't anticipate that. We are September 25th. I think Caitlin in middle school had 1, and I think I have 4. So 5 times that we've had it in the first month of school.
Okay.
I have one other question. What about staff or teachers?
Staff are encouraged to model. Now, it's not over, we have lunch supervisors that communicate with the office by phone. If they need a student, we're communicating to them by phone. There's some places and times where staff are expected to answer their phone. But we are encouraging staff that in a classroom or you can't give out an assignment and then go sit down and pull out your cell phone and look at it. That's not good modeling. Even I am trying to, mine's dinging and buzzing all the time with people trying to get a hold of me. And I am trying to make sure that I don't do that in front of kids as much as I possibly can.
That's the question though. Do we need like a discipline policy for staff as well? That's kind of an out there question, but.
I mean, I guess it could be considered. I mean, it's definitely gonna, if it was you don't have to worry about it. The kids will point it out if it's a problem. And I would agree, if kids are pointing it out to me, it's a discussion that I'm going to have. It might be a coaching discussion of when the kids notice it, we need to fix it. I'm hoping that we don't end up in that issue.
Oh, I agree.
And we have level disciplines. We have to
Yep.
start with coaching.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just curious.
Mhm. It'll definitely be addressed. Like I said, the kids will point it out.
I agree with you. I didn't bring mine in the meeting. This is the first meeting I haven't brought one in. I left it in the truck, so. If we're gonna expect the students to do it, we should do the same. I agree.
I have a clarifying question. So we went through the route of creating the policy so that, what I thought was the intention was to take some of the responsibility off the teachers for implementation. But I see all the discipline areas on the teacher's shoulders. Is it gonna be communicated that this is policy-wide, not teachers' classroom rules? Building-wide, just so that the teachers aren't the ones carrying the load of implementation responsibility?
Oh, everyone's gonna share in the responsibility. The first communication of if it happens in the discipline, if it happens in your classroom a number of times where the teacher is encouraged to contact parents if it's happening in your classroom, everything else is coming through the principals. So all communication home, all notifications out of Skyward come from Caitlin and I.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right.
Athletic director.
Chair Hobson, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Werkamp Herman, Caitlin Arnzen, Activities Director. I'm going to just give you a quick rundown of what our numbers are at for our fall sports and activities. For girls swimming, which is called with Little Falls, we have 2 girls participating in that. For volleyball, 9th through 12th grade, we have 40 girls out. 7th through 8th grade, we have 28 girls. Football, 9th through 12th, we have 47, which is up by a good chunk from last year. 7th through 8th is around 27. Cross country, boys 7th through 12 program has 16. Girls 7th through 12 is 6. Robotics just started this past week. They had 11 signed up for my records. We have 27 kids that are going to participate in the fall play. And with it being homecoming, we have our first home volleyball game of the season tomorrow against Kimball. So hopefully everyone comes and joins. And then for football, we are taking on Edenvale. And the parade is at 5:30. They'll start at the elementary school and then come to the northeast parking lot, which will have tailgating, food, first come, first serve kind of thing. Any questions?
Looks like we're good. Thank you. All right, next is consent agenda approval. So, approval of all items on the consent agenda. We're talking about, approval of the regular board meeting minutes, claims, accounts, and financials. Approval of resignation terminations, approval of new hires, approval of, MOA for FY 25 e-learning days, which was no change from last year. Approval of E-rate complete service agreement and approval of football fundraiser proposal. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I'd like to pull item D from the consent agenda.
Okay. And just do separately?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right, I'll take a motion to, approve the consent agenda A through G minus D.
Mr. Chair, I move A through G minus D.
Okay, Director Hackett. Second?
I'll second it.
Director Boyd. Thank you. Discussion.
I have some questions on the claims, accounts and financial.
Yep.
This one might be best addressed by Kaylin. I see a charge for huddle services that we use for the 16,000 per year. And I see it's broke down per sport.
Yep.
But there's one charge in there that's just named athletics.
So
What does
there,
that cover?
that's just like the general athletics. So we split it up between just the general athletics, because that's how we stream everything. And then it's broken down further into the other sports that actually use like this, and they have, it's a company that analyzes the films and stuff, so they can get actual extra support. So those ones that actually use that to break things down have it given as part of their general budget, but it's also in the general athletics for everything else that doesn't actually use it for the breakdown and stuff.
Sure. So that line item for the athletics is that's where we stream through? That's that charge? Okay. I was just wondering if that one was what.
Yep, and it's one big lump, so it's broken down in percentage.
Okay. Thank you. I have a secondary question. I don't know who can answer this one. Maybe, Dr. Weirkamp would know. What company is Meeker Wright? What is the Meeker and Wright Special Ed Co-op? That we are paying $11,000 for educational services through them.
In care and treatment.
Oh, that's for a student. Oh, that's for a student. Oh, okay. Thank you. And that was it. That was my questions.
Anybody else? All right, we have a motion in the second to go, approve the consent agenda A through G minus D. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. All right, I will take a motion for an approval of new hires.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Trout. I will second that one. Discussion. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Safe transportation. Thank you for your patience, Joe.
Oh, not a problem.
Chair Hofstad, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Werkamp. My name is Joe Weiser. I am the Transportation Director, and I'm here to do the state of transportation. First, I just want to point out that this has probably been the best crew that I have ever worked with as bus drivers. So I really applaud you guys for creating that. It's been just absolutely wonderful coming in and working with these guys. They do really care about transporting your students to and from the different places that they go to, safely, and they're doing a phenomenal job at it. So, thank you. So we do have 14 full-size buses. We only have 9 routes, so we do have 5 regular buses, well, 4 that we use for in case we have a breakdown, trips, and so we have some extras there. We do have 1 little minibus, which we did at one time. It sounds like used as a wheelchair bus. Right now it is not being in use. And then we have 5 minivans, which can transport up to 8. Most of them right now only transport up to 7, so they can climb in and out pretty easily. We do have 1 full-size van that transports up to 9 students, and then we have the 1 wheelchair van that can transport up to 5. Like I said before, we have 9 bus routes / drivers. We also have 3 van drivers that do an AM and PM routes. And then we have 1.5 midday routes. Monday through Friday, we have 1. And then on Thursdays and Fridays, we have to take our little preschoolers home. So that's where we account for the other 1. We also have 5 substitutes and activities drivers and 1 substitute van driver. Throughout the year, we have done already our first aid and EpiPen training. We have also done some driver training on how to do bus evacuations. We just finished up on our bus for our students, so they got that done. We will also be implementing 8 hours of training for our bus drivers and van drivers, and that'll be done throughout the year. So we're hoping to do something more in February or something like that. I also do annual training behind or an evaluation behind the wheel for all of our coaches and or anyone else that needs to transport students. That usually happens throughout the year as they need it. We also do yearly bus evaluations and vans. By law, we're only required to do either 8 hours of training or we do the yearly bus evaluations. I do both. Just double protects us, and it also just I just think it's just good practice. That. So just to tally up our 9 bus routes, our drivers drove 131,000 miles and 500. And then with our 3 van routes that we had last year, they tallied up to 73,800 miles, and those were all done safely. So again, just an added kudos to the drivers. With our activities, we roughly did about 346 school bus activity trips / field trips, which also totaled up to be about 15,500 miles. We had 131 where the coaches and or staff members took students on field trips or activities, and that racked up to about 12,000 miles. So we implemented last year. We took a couple of our bus drivers and they were willing to do some of the smaller repairs that we do inside our shop versus sending them all the way out, which would mean that we have to send them all the way down to St. Cloud to the 2 bus shops that we have down there. So with the shop, we just tallied up the total hours per se that what we would estimate that the shop would have costed us if we would have sent it down to the St. Cloud. With the buses that we had done inside our shop, with the estimated hours that we would have guessed that either North Central or actually North Central, both of them are North Central, would have cost us almost $17,000. With our district mechanics doing it, roughly just costed us over $4,000, which saved the district and us just over almost $13,000. We're hoping to do more this year with just doing more preventative maintenance. We're having a better, being able to maintain our buses a little better with the preventative, getting our oil changes done on time, being able to grease the chassis and making sure that we're taking care of our buses better so we have less costs and repairs. The other thing that was really great about it is we have a faster turnaround of our repairs because we're not having to send them down to the St. Cloud to get fixed, wait a week, and then get it back. Our guys are able to probably get it done in about 2 days or less, maybe most of the time even the same day. So we're getting those buses back on route, back on to our trips, and we're not having to, worry about having enough buses for our different activities and things. Any questions?
Oh, I'd say we definitely appreciate, thinking outside the box with the cost savings, and I know we talked about that, earlier this summer, but, yeah, that's great.
Your $16,000. Did it have anything in there for time for taking the buses to St.
I was gonna say that, I did not, but yes,
Yeah, I didn't
that did
think it
not,
did.
I did not add that in.
could have, though.
But yeah, I could have, so.
Yeah, because you can't just, you gotta take it down there and then somebody's gotta go with somebody and.
But actually it would take two of my drivers, one to drive the bus down and then one to follow with another vehicle and bring it back. So we estimated that each time that we gotta take it down or go pick up, costs us $50. So that's the hourly wage for a driver to go down and pick it up and back. So yeah, that would have been, it's actually correct, an additional savings.
I just want to thank you for sharing this information. I've never seen this information shared with the board before, so thank you for this
No
presentation.
problem. Perfect,
All right, thanks, Joe.
thank you.
Approval of donations by resolution. I don't have a resolution. You guys have the resolutions?
Do you? This copy of the motion.
You can just pull it up from there. I can read it off of there.
Okay.
And we can print that and sign it later tonight. All right. So, does somebody want to introduce the resolution for donations?
I will.
Director Trout, thank you. A second? Oh,
Do you want to pull it down a little bit?
yep, that's fine. So Member Trout introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Charities Aid Foundation of America has generously donated $100 to the Royalton School District to use towards district programs. The Royalton Legion has generously donated $1,000 to the Royalton School District to use towards breakfast on our district in-service day to kick off the new school year. Royalton Legion has generously donated 4 United States flags that totaled the amount of $363.90. The district was able to proudly fly them in time for the first 2024 home football game. The Royalton Legion has generously donated $2,500 to the Royalton School District to use towards the 5th grade deep portage trip. The Royalton Legion has generously donated $100 to the Royalton School District to be used towards the Student Council Color Run. The Royalton Lions Club has generously donated $490 to the Royalton School District for the cross-country 50-50 raffle. And lastly, the St. Cloud Optimist Club has generously donated $2,000 to the Royalton School District to be used towards the middle school robotics program. So therefore be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to greatly accept these gifts. And a motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded
Director Hackett.
by Director Hackett. And approved upon a roll call vote.
Director Trout?
Aye.
Director White?
Aye.
Director Wright? Same. Director Hackett?
Aye.
Director Hudson?
Aye. Motion carries 0. Thank you.
5-0.
What's that?
5.
Nope. And abstain goes with the majority.
On here.
Yep, it'll be written on there, but. Yep. All right, policy. So what we have, first readings are all there, along with second readings. Those are still in there. We've looked at them once, and we still have some work to do on them, so they're just staying in second reading. For rescinding the policies, I talked about the 3 transportation ones that are all encompassed in our transportation policy already. So, and then we're approving, looking for approval for the second and final reading of the license status, which was a 3-year one that we just looked at, to go to second and final. So I will take a motion to approve rescinding 707.1, 719, 724, and approving 424 license status.
So moved.
Director Trout, thank you.
I'll second it.
Second, Director Hackett. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. There is no approval for third policy readings. So the upcoming meeting schedule, we have October 2nd, Finance Committee. We're still good with noon for there. And then, Policy Committee at 1 p.m. Then our next board meeting is, October 14th. And then, November 12th for the, Strategic Planning Committee. Yep. All right. All right, so I will take a motion to close the meeting for superintendent evaluation as permitted by Minnesota statute, section 13D.05.
So moved.
Director Trout, thank you.
I'll second it.
Second, Director Hackett at 7:26 p.m. Thank you.
Not just for people, it got messed this time.
Okay.
In those times.
Yep. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right. Thank you, everybody.